one-step notes and one-step homework. Then we're going to be on 2, right on the opposite side of this. We're going to go with, it's 2 steps. So we're going to be multiplying, dividing, and then adding and subtracting as well. So it's not just 1 step, but 2 steps. Okay. So first we're going to start by finding the slope of the function. And the reason is, we could say to get from, I'm going to go with an even, we are not just subtracting 7 here, because -2 minus 7 would be -9. So it's not just 1 step. So we're just going to continue y equals. Okay. And then we're going to find our slope. We are subtracting 3. Let's make sure that works. Yes, we're subtracting 3. And so my rise, or my y, my change in y over my change in x, my change in y is -3. And my change in x, I am adding 1. Let's make sure that's what's happening. Yep, I'm adding 1. So my x is changing by 1. So my slope is -3 over 1. We're just going to write this as -3. And whatever our slope is, we write it next to x. Okay. Now I'm going to take this -3, and if I take -3 times -2, that equals 6. And if I take -3 times -1, that equals a +3. And if I take -3 times 0, that equals 0, because that's what I want to do to every single one of my x's. So -3 times 1 is -3. -3 times 2 is -6. So now after I multiply these by -3, how do I get here now? So how am I going to get from 6 to 7? Well, I could add 1. Let's make sure that works with all of them. 3 plus 1 is 4. 0 plus 1 is 1. -3 plus 1 is -2. -6 plus 1 is -5. So after I multiply every single one of these by -3, I then add 1, and it gets me to my y. And that's our function rule. So we find our slope first. Go ahead and write these. Find your slope, which is m, and you write mx. So whatever your slope is, you write it times x. So it looks like that. And then you figure out what else do you have to do to get to your y-intercept, and that's your plus b. Okay, so you find your slope, and then figure out if you add or subtract any other number. Okay, so you find your slope and multiply it by x, and then figure out if you add or subtract any other number. So y equals, let's find our slope. I'm adding 2. Yep, I add 2 and add 2. So my change in y is 2, and my change in x, I'm adding 1, so 2 over 1. My slope is 2. So if my slope is 2, what do I do with that? I multiply it by x. 2x. I take my slope and I multiply it by x. Okay, now let's see. If I multiply every single one of these like by 2, like here, I want to see if that gets me there. That might be all I have to do. 2 times 5 is 10. Shucks, it looks like I have to add 3. Maybe that's the rule. 4 times 2 is 8. And if I add 3, it gets me to 11. Nice. Let's try one more easy one. 1 times 2 is 2. And 2 plus 3 is 5. So after I multiply all of these by 2, my slope, I then have to add 3. And it gets me to y. Okay, let's try one more. So y equals, please start by that. And I have to find my slope, multiply it by x, and then see if I add or subtract anything. Okay, so my slope, I'm growing by 1. I'm growing by 1. So again, remember slope is y over x. So my slope is, my change in y is 1. And right here, I'm adding 5. Yep, I'm adding 5. So my change in x is 5. So my slope is 1/5. So I've got 1/5. I've got to multiply that by x. 1/5 of x. How do I take a fifth of a number again? I divide by 5. How do I take a fifth of a number? I divide by 5. So we're going to divide each one of these by 5. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. And divide by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And 5 divided by 5 is 1. So does this get me to my y? Nope. I still have to see what I have to add and subtract. So 1 minus 1 is 0. Let's see if that works for all of them. 2 minus 1 is 3 minus 1 is 2. 5 minus 1 is 4. Perfect. So with every one of these, after I divide it by 5, I subtract 1. And that's my slope. That's my function rule. Two-step function rule. Find your slope. Find what you add or subtract. Okay. And if we want to graph these, I'm going to graph this one right here. Okay, so I've got, let's see, y equals mx plus b, remember slope, and y-intercept. And I start with my y-intercept. So my y-intercept is -1, and my slope is 1/5. So rise 1, run 5. Rise 1, run 5. That's how I would graph that. Okay?